Cris Collinsworth is joining us here in the Man Cave. If you look over my shoulder, if you're watching on DirecTV audience, channel 239 or the NBC Sports Network, I think we got a couple of horses, some cowboys, real cowboys, and Phoenix Stadium is right over our shoulder. But my thanks to DirecTV for what they did, building our western town here, and Cris Collinsworth joining us in studio. Just another day, huh?
You got to step around to make it into the studio. You realize that horses do things.
Yeah, they do.
So I was really tempted to go give it a couple little wiggles in the stuff and just leave my shoes in here. They're old, they're nasty. I was just gonna leave you a little deposit in
If
here.
that's the worst thing that's left in here this week, Cris, I'm fine with that. If you look at the Super Bowl now to when you played, what's the one thing that changed the most?
The media stuff, for sure. I mean, at the time that I did it, there was a table. We came in, and you sat at a table for 8, and players sat at their respective tables, and different media members would kind of work their way around, and everybody hated doing it. You know, the guys seem to embrace it a little bit more now. But Forrest Gregg said, all you guys that don't want to do this, just do what Collinsworth does. Just go out and make it up. None of that stuff is true that he's saying. Just go make it up. They'll write anything this week. And truly, some of the guys did. I mean, it was unbelievable, some of the stories that came out of there. Yeah, you know, my dad was a cattle rancher. And I mean, it's like we're all sharing these things around. They're just making crap up, you know?
But should Marshawn Lynch be forced to talk to the media?
No. In my opinion, no. I mean, who knows? Some people, there's social anxiety. Is he uncomfortable? Is that part of the reason he had been sick before a few guys? I don't know. It honestly doesn't bother me. There's always going to be enough people that want to tell a story. And I think what most of the players don't understand is if you have an understanding of who that person is, you can weave something into the story of a game 120 million people are going to see. Terrell Owens, when I did the Super Bowl that was in Jacksonville, had an unbelievable comeback. Remember the whole thing with his leg, and he made it back, and it was this unbelievable story. But he was mad at me, which is fairly common, so it's not that big a deal. So he's mad at me for whatever I said, and so he doesn't talk to us that week. Well, history would have allowed us to say, this is one of the most remarkable come-from-behind stories of a guy just determined to overcome, and some personal, what were your workouts like? But we had none of that. And so in my mind, his chance to have this legacy built by us if we had known the story completely. And so we tried to do the best we could with it, but you really can't tell the story the way that you would have liked to.
Because Belichick normally doesn't give you anything at his press conferences. He has on Deflategate, but he normally will get up there and just go, we're on to Cincinnati. We're on to Cincinnati.
People don't understand. I have had the worst production meetings with Bill when he's mad or upset with things and it's really uncomfortable. And I have had the best production meetings with Bill. He stood next to me for an hour at a Super Bowl practice the last time we had the Super Bowl. And finally he goes, what else you have? And I said, I have literally run out of questions. I have nothing. He was telling me everything. I've never seen him so open and so honest, and he would be an unbelievable guy. If you could go, I've always heard that Jimmy Johnson has him on his fishing boat, and a few beers, and start telling some stories, and he wasn't worried about what I was going to say on the air. I don't know that you would find a more interesting guy, because he's been kind of holding in reserve all these years, stories he'd probably really like to tell. So I think there's a little misunderstanding of he's a really smart, really interesting guy, if he wants to be,
But he also drops a My Cousin Vinny reference while he's so analytical and so serious when he meets with the media to talk about these footballs. I mean, the juxtaposition of the tone of his voice and the demeanor that he had, and then he gave you My Cousin Vinny.
which was fantastic.
I loved it. I thought it was fascinating.
How could it be? So if you get them on the right subject. So the last time we had a production meeting for the playoff game with the Ravens, so I came in and I said, all right, one of the things I want to talk to you about today is the way that Vince Wilfork he takes the defense or the offensive lineman and like bench presses him off of him, and now as a two-gapper he can go either way, right? And he goes, stand up. And I go, what? He goes, stand up. So now he and I have had more than a few run-ins, Spygate being way up here on the top of the list, right? Where, I mean, it was really ugly for a little while with what I had to say about
You called him out for cheating.
Yeah, that was as bad as it got. And to make it even worse, Roger Goodell was in the other room getting ready to come on our program right after that. So there, in the history of being uncomfortable, there was never a more uncomfortable than all the stuff that went on with that. So now, after all these years now, we finally come back and got something of a relationship. So he goes, stand up. So I stand up, and he spends 20 minutes showing me what the defensive line technique is for this jam. And he goes, now put your hands inside. And so I put my hands inside, and he goes, now be on the outside of me. And his hands are inside, and he's like, he could walk me all over the room and do all these things. He goes, it's all about, so he does this whole thing about, and I go, this is the greatest production meeting I have ever been a part of. And you know how much of it we got on the air that night? Zero. Not one thing. Not one single thing. And I'll tell you who else was like that. Parcells was a guy, you would go into the production meeting. He goes, hey, man, he's the greatest thing in the world. And that was with Marv Albert at the time. And he'd start talking about the Major League Baseball and the Dodgers and the NBA. And he'd do this whole thing. And you're like, this is just riveting stuff. And then all of a sudden he goes, I got to go. And you look down at your notepad, nothing, not one single thing. So if you get these guys on the subject that they want to talk about, they're all in.
He's Cris Collinsworth from Football Night in America. He'll, of course, be calling the game with Al Michaels on Super Bowl Sunday. When we come back, I want to ask you about the footballs. I want to know how prevalent this is. I want to know.
It's been great being on your show.
You want to Belichick's going to be real happy with this, probably.
I'm going to Parcells you right now.
Yeah. All right, tell me what you think actually happened here, and then we can, extrapolate from there.
I don't know. And I think that's what's so uncomfortable about this.
Do you care what happened?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't. I'm anti-cheating. If there's cheating going on, I'm against that. I think that's a fair stand to take here. But it's unbelievable what you hear around the league too.
What do you mean?
I mean the most standard line amongst all coaches, if you've really got them in private, is if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying, right? I mean that's every one of them have uttered that phrase.
Give me an idea of what is cheating, or what is within the NFL rules where other coaches would say, hey, we're trying to get away with that as well.
Hey, if you put the balls at 12.5 pounds per square inch, and it's done inside, and through history that they lose 2 pounds of pressure in the cold weather and the rain and whatever the case may be, that's not cheating. If you have somebody with a needle on the sideline, and as soon as the referees turn the balls over to the Patriots ball boys, and they're holding it underneath a towel because there's, wanting to keep it dry, and they're going, psst, and letting the air out of the ball, that's cheating.
Do you think that happened?
I don't have any idea. Do I think it happened? Probably not. I mean, can you imagine how precise you'd have to be with feel to do, and I can't imagine they're there with a gauge and all the other stuff.
Well, they wouldn't have done it on the sidelines. They would have had it because you have it 2 hours prior to, so you have the balls there. You don't have to be out on the sidelines with them.
No, I think they bring the balls out with the referees at like 10 minutes before the games, is my understanding of it. Does anybody have...
McLevin, have you heard that the footballs, that you only get them 10 or 15 minutes before?
The ball boys only get them. The referees get them 2 hours before because they have to measure the whole thing.
Yeah. What about the Colts, though, with their footballs?
I can't explain that.
See the variance there.
I can't explain that.
Do you have a problem with teams blowing the whistle on the Patriots?
That gets into, within this league, a little bit of a gray area. And it's interesting that we have seen a bigger backlash sometimes against the guys who are the whistleblowers than against the teams that had the issues.
Yeah.
So it's a strange culture, but when times get really hard, there does seem to be a little bit of a closing of the ranks out there. And I've talked to 3 coaches this week, and I haven't had one of them that have said, we've got to take Belichick down. We've got to take the Patriots down. This is ridiculous. And, I just haven't heard that. I've heard them say, God, whatever you do, don't let them go back to where we couldn't rub the balls down.
Yeah.
I've had one say, this is ridiculous. It's like over absolutely, so I've seen the full range of emotions in this thing, but it is the pressure really is on Roger right now. I mean, there's no other way of saying that. And
no pun intended there.
Yeah, and I cannot, yeah. And the one thing that I can't...
They let it get out of control, Chris. You got to do this behind the scenes. They should have said to, Belichick, knock it off. If there's something going on here, I don't want this to be a bigger deal.
That's what at least one coach said to me. Said in days gone by in this league, if they had gotten a report that the balls were underinflated, you would have gotten a call from the commissioner, and he would have said, knock it off.
Yes.
We're going to check you at halftime, and if you get caught at halftime, I'm just telling you right now, make it go away, because we don't want to go into the Super Bowl with this spectacle of, what has been going on here. Instead, it was kind of like a sting operation, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's really what
it was. A gotcha.
It was a gotcha. And so now you got them. So now what are you going to do with it? And so now we're going to have this investigation. But the only thing I really can't explain that I would love to have an explanation for is why haven't they talked to Tom?
And you can't do it this week.
Yeah, I totally understand that, and I agree with that. I think there's a very real justification for why haven't you talked to Tom Brady? Can't you at least ask him? I mean, what he said at a press conference, okay, that's a press conference. But here, we need to know the facts of this thing, because I've got to go out this entire week. I've got my own press conference if you're Roger Goodell on Friday.
Yeah.
I want to at least be able to say, we talked to all the principals. You talked to 40 people with the Patriots, and you didn't talk to Tom Brady?
But, Chris, it gets back to Ray Rice, where they didn't do enough with Ray Rice. They didn't see what they needed to see when they needed to see it or ask the questions, and then it spiraled out of control.
I talked to Roger Goodell at the Hall of Fame game, and like 5 of us from NBC did. I was like, Roger, why 2 games? What's that about? He said, oh, man, he says, he's not been charged with anything. He's never been in trouble before that I know about it, at least with the league. I met with he and Janae. They come into my office. They're both in tears. They're both saying it's my fault. They're both saying that they were with alcohol all night long. Both of them are taking the blame. This is an entire league of guys. If I don't ever give anybody a second chance, was it a mistake? Now you look back on it. Yeah, it was probably a mistake. But it was such a human reaction, right? It was a guy saying he wasn't charged. He hasn't been in trouble. They're crying their eyes out. They want a second chance. 2 games, get out of here. And when I was watching the press conference, when he was, under fire from everybody, I was like, Roger, tell that story. I go, we had 5 guys from NBC in here, and we all believed it. We all believed a human reaction, and as a parent, as a whatever, we've all been in situations where people do stupid things, and you got to go, all right, you're grounded for the next 6 months, but all right, I love you, and let's go on. You could almost see a human being reacting that way, but it ended up being a press conference with bullet points and different things, and the human side of that I didn't think ever came out. So, when the whole investigation, I said, all right, don't be dumb. Let's let the investigation, let Mueller do his full report. But the whole time in the back of my mind, I was saying, at least to myself, I don't think he ever saw the videotape inside the elevator. He obviously saw it dragging her out, and that was awful enough. But I never thought that he saw the one inside the elevator at the time that he handed down the 2 games. So
he's Cris Collinsworth from Football Night in America, joining us here in our man cave. The best player on the field on Sunday will be who?
Wow. I went back and watched the game 2 years ago between these 2 teams. And Tom Brady had great efficiency going up and down the field. Short, quick passes. Don't let that pass rush get there. just boom, boom, boom. We're going to get it out of our hands. And, because these pass rushers, it was Clemens who actually really hurt them with some inside spin moves and some different things. But when they got in the red zone, Seattle clamped down on them, and they did not have success down there. So if they're going to have success in the red zone, as a general rule, you think Gronkowski. And, of course, he's been called out a little bit this week. I wouldn't have done that. Jeremy Lane, I wouldn't have called him out. Maybe it's just me, but I don't want that guy upset and fired up going into this football game. But they're going to have to score touchdowns. I think they will be able to move the football with short, quick passes. And then the deciding factor is going to be Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson he's either going to make those scrambling plays and ad-lib plays. I think he had 3 or 4 of them in the last time they met. Throw it way down the field, pass interference, can make a big catch, whatever the case may be. But ultimately, I think we know what we're going to get out of Tom Brady. The X factor is always what's Russell going to do.
Adam Vinatieri came out and said, if you're going to make it harder for kickers, make it harder for everyone. Take away the gloves with the wide receivers. Here we're going to change the goalpost. I think we're trying to take the place kicker out of the game because they become too good. They're
too good, and I agree with that. I actually kind of like the idea of that. I've even thought, okay, because now everybody has to rethink this whole thing with the air pressure and the balls and all that kind of stuff. Well, what if you want the footballs at 10.5 pounds of pressure, fine, but you're also going to kick with those balls. So you may not be able to kick a 40-yard field goal, at a certain pressure. You may not be able to punt the ball 45 yards down the field. Or if your quarterback wants it at 13.5, you may be able to kick 60 yards. But, why is there a one football here and then a K football? And, I think we've overthought the whole thing.
But do gloves help that much with wide receiver?
Oh, come on. Absolutely. When I played receiver, you never saw anybody overhand catch a ball on the ground. Nobody catches the ball like this anymore. Now it's like, I go, what is on those gloves now? And when it rained, you took the gloves off because, you weren't going to catch anything with those things. Now they've got some special rain gloves, and guys are going up in one hand, Odell Beckham. I was like, get out of here. That's not even possible. What are you talking about?
If I said you could have HGH or gloves when you're 25.
Oh, today I'd take the HGH. I'd just like one time to go, yeah. Baby. At 25, I might take the gloves.
Yeah? They would have been that much of a difference maker.
You can see it. Everybody caught the ball when it was below their waist with their hands this way.
Does this taint wide receiver records?
Didn't taint mine. I didn't have anything to go with, but I wore gloves in my last year because they finally came up with some, and I thought I was cheating. Honestly, I remember going, this is cheating. This ball it's like, do you play racquetball? You ever play racquetball?
Yeah.
With, you wear a glove, and you ever try to play racquetball without a glove, and the thing just slides all over the place? Well, it's the same kind of deal. That's really what it's like. So, I would have liked to have had those gloves. That was good.
Because you look at these receivers now, and there's certain running backs that I think can get in because of the numbers we've looked at, because the numbers have been diminished in what we expect out of a running back. But wide receivers, 1,000 catches is not going to get you in the Hall of Fame.
No. The game is so changed. I don't think, I went back and asked somebody to look it up. I don't think I ever had a touchdown under 5 yards or under 10 yards, right? You just didn't have that.
Ton of them now.
Yeah, and I think that, they get down on the goal line, and if it's one-on-one, that's it. I mean, they're going to throw it 3 straight times down there. That's the way it was. So I'm completely jealous. I hate them all. And,
Give me your best Al Michaels story, on or off the air.
Oh, my gosh. The one that always makes me laugh really has nothing to do with Al, but Al and I are sort of notoriously bad golfers. He may be slightly worse than I am, but not a whole lot worse than I am. So we play when we get a chance. Never on the road. We never play during football season, but in the off season or whatever. But Al has a buddy that every time, and he plays golf with him all the time. I'm not going to give him up, Skip. But every time Al is like in one of those spots, like if he were in the cacti on your screen over here or whatever, and Al had one leg on the table and he's hitting one of those shots, I get a picture of it. So we're just inundated with all these shots of Al under trees, under bushes, and he's an honest golfer now. He will play.
Do you have one on your phone right now?
You know what? I just changed phones. I will get you one. I will get you one.
I would love
I will get you one.
Maybe text it to us, and we can put it on the website. We'd love to see Al, because Al loves to play.
Oh, he's the greatest, and he's so bitter about it all the time. He's like all of us. He thinks the next round is going to be 66.
Al has got to be.
He thinks the next round he is breaking the course record.
Al has to be good at or bad at something, because he's good at broadcasting.
Honestly, I think that guy, you could take him, not tell him what the sport was, walk him blindfolded into the booth, and it could be whatever, in the farthest reaches of the planet. And he would be the best announcer at that. I mean, he's an amazingly gifted, intelligent, smart guy that can't play a lick of golf.
Do you listen for his betting references, the gambling references during games?
They're hard to miss. They're hard to miss.
But you don't respond, though, right?
Just occasionally. I'm usually giggling. He has a phrase. He says, if you want to really be a good broadcaster, you have to have a little rascal in you, right?
Brent Musburger has that.
Brent is the greatest. I love Brent. Brent is like, when my son was playing at Notre Dame, I thought Brent was just doing the broadcast to me. Oh, Chris. Oh, he's got to cover that guy. Oh, Chris, I think this is going to be a tough one for him here. It's like he's calling my game. But Al has a way of connecting with the fans, because we can all be so formal sometimes. And the cover two and the Tampa two and all this kind of stuff. And every once in a while, you need something where the guy's sitting on the couch with that beer and his chips, and he goes, I like that, Al Michaels. And he does that. He's awesome. He's really great.
Thanks for stopping by. You want to shoot hoops during the commercial break?
Just a quick game of pig, you think? We have time?
Are you good?
Well, I made one shot. But you've got microphones on me. I've got
here we go. Here we go.
Just
here we go.
Maybe
I could get you some receiver gloves.
Let's play a game of pee.
All right, fair enough.
One out.
All right, fair
enough.
One out.